everyone, this is Paul Gale from paulgalenetwork.com, and thank you for joining me today for video game news. It is March 29th, 2022, and today we are going to check out the video that Nintendo just dropped on YouTube, Twitter, etc., titled Launch Timing Update for the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild sequel. Yes, this 1.5 minute long clip is going to, I already watched it, unfortunately tell us that the game is being delayed, but I'm going to tell you why I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily, and have a little bit of an additional perspective to throw in there. All right, here we go though. If this is your first time watching this video, here we go.
こんにちは。ゼルダの伝説シリーズプロデューサーの青沼です。ゼルダの伝説ブレスオブザワイルド続編の発売時期に関してお知らせがあります。本作は2022年に発売を予定しているとお伝えしていましたが、開発にもう少しお時間をいただきたく、発売を2023年春に変更させていただきたいと思います。楽しみにお待ちいただいている皆様、大変申し訳ありません。続編の舞台は前作ブレスオブザワイルドでの地上フィールドだけでなく、空の上にも広がると前回お伝えしましたが、拡張された世界はそれだけではなく、そこで皆さんを待ち受ける新たな出会いや新たな遊びも前作以上に多彩なものとなっています。そうした続編での体験を特別なものにするべく、開発チーム一同引き続き総力を挙げて取り組んでいきますので、どうか今しばらくお待ちいただければと思います。今回のお知らせは以上となります。ありがとうございました。
Okay, so we got some new footage in there, which is pretty exciting. Like I said, I've already seen it before, but I can't help but smile throughout the video because even though it is unfortunate news that we're probably looking at a 6-month delay or so, right? If you think about it, spring 2023, that's anywhere from late March to mid-June. So if you just want to call it like May 19th, right? If that's the release date or, within the ballpark of it, and the game would presumably be coming out this November 20th or something like that, then that's about a 6-month delay. That's pretty hefty. If you were looking forward to playing the game in 8 months, now you're looking at a little bit more than a year potentially. But I'm totally okay with it. Like I said, I was smiling because, hey, I like Mr. Eiji Aonuma, so seeing him in a nice new haircut, looking crisp, is kind of cool because I've met him several times over the years at E3, have had plenty of good conversations. He's always really nice, really pleasant, full of energy and passion. So just kind of seeing him in a different manner brings a smile to my face. Also, hearing that they're really taking the game seriously, as Nintendo always does with its titles, but specifically there are a few franchises that they just go above and beyond with, entry after entry, mainly the Mario series and the Legend of Zelda series. I have, full faith in the team that by the time this game is done, it's going to have somewhere near a 6-year development cycle, right? Breath of the Wild came out as a launch title for Nintendo Switch on March 3rd, 2017. This game will launch after March 3rd, 2023, so that's coming out over 6 years later, even if it's like late March at the earliest, right? Spring 2023, it's still over 6 years later. Yes, they did spend some time after Breath of the Wild came out on the couple of rounds of DLC, but I'm sure that as soon as that game was wrapping up, they had this divvy between DLC content being made and folks working on a proper sequel. The fact that this game seemingly is based off of the engine of Breath of the Wild and still taking 6 years to develop means that I'm getting the vibes of something really powerful behind the scenes, something of truly a grand scope, because you look at previous games in the Zelda series or any video game franchise for that matter, and when you use a similar engine, usually a sequel comes out in less time than it took the original game to get made, because a lot of the groundwork is done. Camera angle, motion, environmental control, sometimes even enemy assets, uh, things like stage morphing, mechanics in walking around, animations for running, etc. Lock on targeting and how that's functioning in the environment, physics engine, all of that stuff. So the fact that that's already completed, the fact that they don't have to split the time between, okay, Wii U development and also shifting gears to make it Nintendo Switch ready, and then, focusing on both and optimizing one or the other, they could just completely put all of their energy into this game on Nintendo Switch, maximize it for the console, unless if there is something else, and that is like, okay, a March 2023 or a May 2023 release of Nintendo Switch 2 is planned, or a Nintendo Switch Plus, Pro, whatever, right? And okay, the game is once again kind of having this shift of working on the base Nintendo Switch and also being optimized for either a full-on sequel successor console or a mid-generation upgrade. That could be it. But even if that's the case, it's being made for Nintendo Switch with over half a decade of development. You could say that, well, with COVID and whatnot impacting development specifically throughout the majority of 2020 and even in 2021, as things got better, things still weren't exactly back to normal. And starting off this year, things still aren't quite back to normal. That maybe that's some of the impact going into this longer development time. And I think that's kind of fair to say too, but it's not like the game was ever halted in development, in these last 2 years of pandemic times. So I have, oh, here we go. I have the full faith that this game is fine. It's not stuck in development problems. It's just that they're taking their time. There'll be a wider variety of features you could enjoy. I'm going to play this clip, rewind a little bit, and look at it in motion again. Let's check it out. Something glowing, something mysterious in front of Link. He's got the Master Sword, which is glowing as well. He's turning around looking. Somebody's approaching him from behind. He has the longer fingernails at this point. His hand has already been affected. We're seeing his full face though. We're seeing that full front shot of his garb, that tunic. We're getting some, Triforce reminiscent details to his clothing here, and he looks awesome. This is all new footage, which I think is really cool. After he turned around and looked at someone, presumably, he's got the Master Sword, which is injured. It's crippled. It's like a third of the length of the Master Sword normally, at best, because this part is the only part that looks like healed, and this part, is kind of damaged. Ooh, that is a way how you tell a story of it being a sequel to Breath of the Wild, because everything seemed fine at the end of the game. Small spoilers, something wasn't quite fine as Link and Zelda went off on another adventure. Something going wrong with the Divine Beast. Let's check it out. And of course, we saw the first 2 trailers of this game. Enough isn't quite right because Ganondorf is seemingly coming back to life. Princess Zelda falls down in the cave, etc. That's exciting. I think that's all of the new footage that we got. So it was very brief, but really cool nonetheless. Let's check it out. Somewhere around here. Maybe I'll read it off too. I was debating whether I should read the English subtitles down below, but I didn't want to go over his speech. But this part right now, I will go ahead and read over, since you all got to watch it the first time as it was originally presented. All right.
続編の舞台
As
は
previously announced, the adventure in this sequel will take place not just on the ground as in the previous
ブレ
game,
ス・オブ・ザ・ワイルドでの地上フィールドだけでなく空の上にも広
but
がると
also in
前
the
回お
skies
伝えしま
above.
したが拡張された世界
However,
は
the
それ
expanded world goes beyond that,
だけではなくそこで皆さんを待ち
and there will be an even wider variety of features you can enjoy,
受ける新たな出会いや新たな遊びも前作以上に
including new encounters and new gameplay
多
elements.
彩なものとなっています。そうした続編
In
での
order
体
to
験
make
を
this game's experience something special,
開発チーム
the
一
entire
同
development team is
引き続き
continuing to
総
work
力を挙げて
diligently
取り
on
組んで
this
いきます
game,
のでどうか
so please wait a while
お待ちいただ
longer.
ければと思います。今回のお知らせは以
That's
上
all for
となりま
today's
す。
announcement.
ありがとうございまし
Thank
た。
you. Thank you, Mr. Aonuma, and all at Nintendo working on this game. Spring 2023. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it on this cool shot right here, maybe. Something like that. Or maybe the one holding the sword. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So this is how you make the story continue, though, because why would Link not just take the fully powered up Master Sword, assuming the player went through all of that, and let's say they made that a part of the story officially, why not just take that and go ahead and use it? It's fully powered. It's not breaking. It just needs time to recharge. There you go. Something definitely happened. What do you think? Are you disappointed with the delay? I always look forward to that November, December timeframe of gaming, as I do any month of the year, but it's a nice time. You've got the holidays. November is the birth month of my son and my wife, so it's also kind of special in those regards too. I know my son would love to play this game for his birthday, and my daughter as well, being a Zelda fan, even though she's a March baby, would also have fun, watching and all of us playing together, really, as the world would. But Nintendo Switch has a great 2022 lineup. I mean, they came out of the gates with, Pokemon Legends Arceus, and from Square Enix, Triangle Strategy, and then we just got Kirby and the Forgotten Land. We've got Nintendo Switch Sports coming out a month from now, and Advance Wars got delayed, but I imagine that it's going to come out later in 2022. I don't think it will slip to next year, but you never know. At the end of this year, we have the gargantuan release of brand new Pokemon titles. Again, we just got Arceus in Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet. We have Bayonetta 3 this year. That's giant. We have 6 waves of Mario Kart 8 booster course DLC, and we already got one of them with 8 really fresh courses. And we'll get a few more this year, and then a few more in 2023. So there's plenty to look forward to. And on the third-party front, we've got the Lego Star Wars giant 6-pack of games, no, 9-pack of games, where it goes over all of the movies. So there are definitely first-party titles, third-party titles, exclusives, shared ports, and probably some surprises along the way that we don't know about. There's always E3. There's always that, hey, we're showing it off for the first time here, and it's coming out later this year. We didn't know that was coming out. It wasn't something that we were anticipating for months and months in advance, but, here we go. Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope is another one that potentially, could now, if it's ready, take up that November spot. Maybe Nintendo will have something else in addition to Pokemon for the last 2 months of the year. Maybe a Donkey Kong. Who knows? I don't want to get into too much rumor and speculation talk right now, but we'll see. Speaking of a rumor, though, I did report several days ago, last week in fact, that I heard, not directly from anybody at Nintendo or anybody that would know, but I heard from someone that it was said to that individual that they heard that they knew of in some capacity that the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild was actually called, at one point in time, perhaps, The Legend of Zelda Breath of Duality. And that duality was a name chosen because it represented lightness and dark, sky and ground, multiple different playable characters, different themes of time, and so forth, dual natured mechanics in the game. I could not verify if that is accurate or not. I was simply saying what was said to me by this individual, by this friend, and what was given to said person by somebody else, okay? If that is the case, that the game ends up being called The Legend of Zelda Breath of Duality, that would be a pretty interesting title. I don't think it's any worse or any better than any Zelda game. It all comes down to what does the title mean in terms of, the game. Ocarina of Time. If you just heard that, how many people knew what the ocarina instrument was? Majora's Mask. You've got a name, okay, it's going to be a mask, but what is it? What is Majora? What's a Majora? Who's a Majora? The Wind Waker. What is the Wind Waker? Twilight Princess. Okay, that one's talking about a woman character, but who would it be? You wouldn't be able to tell necessarily. Link's Awakening, A Link Between Worlds, A Link to the Past. I guess some of the titles have more direct meaning in their names than others, but some of them, Breath of the Wild, if you just heard that game, what would make you think of, why is it called Breath of the Wild, right? So everything in hindsight makes sense because I think Nintendo always does a really good job tying the gameplay, tying the story behind the name. We heard at E3 that the name was being kept under wraps and just simply being called the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And then we found out, the last E3, and then later on, in addition to Eiji Aonuma speaking about it, Bill Trinen talking about the reason why they haven't said the title is because it gives some major hint at the gameplay itself, the story itself. If Breath of Duality is a title, and that was released without ever showing too much extra footage last E3, and all of a sudden people started hearing, well, Breath of Duality, two nature, two themes, two characters. Is this two different Links? Is it Link and Zelda? Is it Link and Ganon? Oh wait, is it light and dark? Is it back in time in that footage and then this footage being present? I could see why that title could in fact be it. I'm also very skeptical myself, however, because number one, I could not validate, confirm in any capacity to who it was originally given to from that first person. Why, who, what, etc. Nothing extra. And also, Nintendo is very careful with its titles. It's very careful with who knows what information at what time. So it's generally very tight-lipped. So the reality is something of this magnitude to get out seems to be honestly on the lesser side, the smaller spectrum, if you will, of likelihood, right? That being said, it is possible. There are things that, have been shared with me over the years that are of a similar nature, things that were shared with people that I know, friends that I know that have had similar stories where they learned some considerable information years before things were officially unveiled. So it's not entirely impossible. I'm not writing it out. I'm not ruling it out. So I don't know exactly what to think. Could it have been a placeholder title? Maybe. Is it the actual title? I'm skeptical of that. I question, well, why did I even share it? Well, I shared it because it was given to me by somebody that I know that, I don't doubt them having received it. But by whom exactly, don't know that part. But I'm interested in The Legend of Zelda. This is one of my top 3 favorite franchises in gaming. This is a game that I'm extremely eager to play, anticipating greatly. I receive rumors quite often, and the vast majority of things I don't put up because either I can't verify it, it feels like it's fake, it doesn't necessarily interest me, I don't want to become, too reliant on just dropping rumors and them never coming to. I have successfully shared things in the past, things that have come out to be true. I have not shared things in the past that were true, only to later say, nah, I could have dropped that one probably, and just never did. I've also shared things that wound up being, unfortunately fake, fake information, rumors just given that didn't have any weight behind it. So I know that there is a risk to sharing any information, and especially on how you report it, that is important, and how other people source you back is important. If people read into it and say, this is it, this is confirmed, this person said that, like, that's not the case at all, that's not what I said, that's not how it was received, So take it with a grain of salt, the title, like I said, I weighed myself, well, not weighed myself figuratively, but I weighed the duality of sharing that information in the first place. If a source ever gives me anything in confidence, that's something that I do receive more often than not. And that's something that, when that happens, I cannot talk about it. But that's not this. If this was given to me in confidence, I would have never even written that article in the first place. I would be like, wow, I know something pretty cool. I just have to wait until Nintendo shares it, speaks of it, in legitimate capacity. That's how I would handle it. That's out of respect for my source, out of respect for the company, the base material, everyone working on it, etc. Not that I don't have that same level of respect in sharing this, but, given to me in the nature that it did, I shared it and am having a fun time talking about it with others and speculating and seeing, do we think it's real or not? Do we think that it was real in some capacity? Is it all just baloney? Those are a few different possibilities in all honesty, but we'll see what happens. That's it for this, though. Let me see. I did have since I saw Mr. Aonuma's haircut, this is just something fun. I did have something to look at. Okay. And some people might not care about this necessarily, but I think it's kind of cool. This is Mr. Eiji Aonuma as he was presented today. And this is him over the years. Like I said, I've met him many times over the years at various E3s. This is 2010. Let's take this picture and slide it down there. Yeah. This is Mr. Aonuma and I at E3 2010. You can see longer hair for him. 2011, same style. This is 2014, same style. And then we've got, this one's also 2014, but different time in the day. And this is 2016, the last time that we met, I think, 17, 18, 19. We might have seen each other in the last 3 years of E3s, but I don't recall exactly. But anyways, yeah, Mr. Aonuma's hair over the years, if you had an interest, there you go. And comparing what it has been, at least in this 2010 to 2016, 7 years worth of E3 window of hairdos, right? And now, looks crisp, looks nice. For that matter, we covered this before. Not like this is a hair channel, but can't help talk about it a little bit because it is kind of entertaining. Mr. Miyamoto, when we saw him last talking about Super Nintendo World and Super Mario the movie and Chris Pratt and the different voice actors joining board, like he had a different hairstyle than he's had the majority of his career that we've seen publicly, and that I've seen because I've met Mr. Miyamoto in person quite a few times, have had some good interviews over the years, and yeah, so Nintendo's getting their big time players some nice modern crispened up haircuts and stuff like that. But yeah, let me know what you think of Breath of the Wild and its sequel, specifically getting delayed. What do you think of The Legend of Zelda Breath of Duality as a title. Do you think it's real? Do you think it potentially was one of the template titles for it? Or do you think there's no validity to it at all? No offense taken on either way on any of those scenarios. Like I said, I'm not concrete myself in believing that it is legitimate, just reporting it as I was presented it by someone, and that's it. All right, thanks again for watching. This is Paul Gale Network signing out. Hope you all have a good rest of your day, and yeah, see you next time. Bye.